You're listening to the Word Slinger Podcast, episode 82, Unleashing Your Creative Self with Patti Clark. Hey there, authors. Are you looking for your very own creative marketing department? Well, you can have one on demand, and it's right there waiting for you at happypantscreative.com. Go check out happypantscreative.com for copywriting for all your marketing needs. See you there.
It's the Word Slinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented Pants Optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger.
Word Slinger.
Word Slinger. Hey everybody, how you doing? I am so happy to be here talking to you today. And it's been chaotic over here. We've had, literally, I swear, I do not believe that the lawn care guys are actively waiting outside my window, hoping that I will start to record an episode of the show. But it's starting to feel like the universe may be planning it that way. So it's like literally every time I go to record an episode, here comes lawn care. And what's funny is that immediately after they finished, it started raining. So I was this close to getting sort of a rain out on that. So there you go. That's just the way that happens. That's just the way things go sometimes in life, isn't it? So thanks for tuning in. Now today, okay, you know me. I am a creative person. And I work in a creative industry, and I work with a lot of creative people. And sometimes it's good to know sort of tricks of the trade, as it were, to unleash that creative potential within us and actually create something, get out there and build something new and make a dent in the universe, as it were. So I am talking today to Patti Clark. Now you're gonna like this interview. Now she's an interesting person. I'm gonna just say that right up front. I loved talking to her. She's very energetic. She has a very sort of, I don't know, she has a nice vibe. So you'll probably enjoy this interview. I love talking to quirky people like Patti. She was just interesting, and the fact that she's living in New Zealand and she's doing some cool stuff with her life and her work, that just made it all the more fun. So be sure to listen in. And if you like this episode, if you like the show in general, you can help support everything that I'm doing here. Now, a couple of ways to do this. Number one, I would really appreciate it if you would go and review this show on iTunes. As soon as you're done with this episode, click on over, leave me, 4 or 5 stars on not Amazon, iTunes, right? I said iTunes, right? I'm so used to asking for reviews on Amazon. But go to iTunes, click on over, leave me 4 or 5 stars, write a nice review. Just tell us what you think is useful about the show. That's the kind of thing that will actually help us expand our reach more listeners. And by reaching more listeners, it expands my ability to bring more guests on the show. And I want to be able to bring more guests on the show. I want to be able to bring on people maybe you haven't been introduced yet. And I want to be able to hit up people who may currently be out of reach for me. As cool and popular as I am, there are some folks out there who haven't heard of me. I know. Shocker. But that's one way to help support the show. Now, another way is with your dollars, and the best way to get those dollars to me and to this show would be through our Patreon campaign. And you can get to that if you go to wordslingerpodcast.com. You can click on the Patreon button. Now, here's the deal. The only reason I ask for money is this express purpose. I have this goal to grow the show and build a community around it. Now, it's sort of an empire building thing, I will admit. But I've seen so many good things come out of the interviews that I do here, and so many people. I've met so many amazing people through the show, and so have some of my listeners. Like they go on to discover new authors, new businesses, new entrepreneurs, and that helps them grow. That helps you grow. So that's kind of the goal. That's what we're trying to accomplish here. So with your donations, if I can get to the range I'm shooting for, and it's a lofty goal. Like I'm trying to bring around $5,000 a month into this show to help pay for, overhead, but also to help grow as big as we can. So as little as $1 per episode, $1 per month, whatever works for you, that will work for me too. And I really appreciate everyone who's already contributing. It's been great to see see that support come in. But that's where we are. I'd like to see it grow, and I'd love to have your help. So if you are finding the show useful, if you are finding the guests entertaining and informative and inspiring, then please help us reach more people with that same sort of service. So now here we are. I don't want to delay any further. I want to get into this interview with Patti. I hope you enjoy this. Stick around just after. I will do a wrap up, and enjoy this very creative interview, this unleashed interview with Patti Clark. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. And now today I'm talking to author Patti Clark. She's the author of This Way Up, 7 Tools for Unleashing Your Creative Self and Transforming Your Life. That is a topic I am very interested in, Patti, so I am really glad to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on.
I am so excited to be here, Kevin. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
I've been listening to your podcasts and just really like your style, and have really enjoyed some of the different people you've spoken to. I just felt very excited to come on here and be part of this thing.
Oh, well, thank you. You're the one listening. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So we're actually we're like an ocean and some bits of continent apart right now. You're actually in New Zealand right now, right?
That's correct. It's Friday morning here, Friday the 13th, 7 a.m., and the sun's just coming up. And it's autumn here. We're moving toward winter.
Oh, wow. Already. That's
Yep.
actually, I would give a lot to be moving back toward winter. I know a lot of people in the U.S. Would not agree with me. They had rough winters in some of the parts of the U.S., but in the Houston, Texas area, we did not mind winter so much. So,
Right.
so I'm very, as I said, I mean, I'm very interested in the topic here because, and you and I think in sort of the same way, at least about the transformative power of creativity. So I'm very interested in covering that as a topic. So first, why don't you give us a little breakdown about the book itself and what it's about?
All right. Thanks. The book, This Way Up, it's really unique, and I've been told by everyone that's read it so far that they've never really come across a book quite like it. It's in 2 parts. The first part, the very first half, is an allegorical tale of a middle-aged woman whose son leaves for university, and she's left alone in her home and is suddenly alone and is bereft, doesn't know herself, has given pieces of herself away her whole life, and is suddenly, who am I? What am I doing? Where do I want to go? Directionless, purposeless,
Right.
terrified. And then it's the slow discovery and the slow way back to self. And she does this through a lot of different ways. One of the main ways is creativity, and she uses journaling a lot, which is my modality, that which I love. And then the second half of the book is the workbook. It's a day-by-day journaling exercise book where the reader goes along the same process as the protagonist in the story on the first half. So it's very much the reader feels part of the story and feels as though she's walking in the protagonist's shoes, and then gets to actually walk through the shoes. They're the same exercises, the same visualizations, the same journaling exercises, very similar and very gentle, tapping back into self so that one starts to rediscover, oh yeah, that's my passion. That's what I love. Because we as women especially, we really lose touch with that because we, I believe, just naturally nurture more when we have kids or when we have a partner or when we have a career. We're giving a lot.
Right. Yeah. That's okay. You brought up journaling, and that is a favorite of mine. And anyone who's read 30 Day Author knows that that's one of the keys to developing a daily writing habit that I talk about. So what you journal regularly, I'm going to take it, right?
Yes, I journal every single morning. I started out, one of my absolute heroes is Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way.
I love that.
And I read that 25 years ago, I guess, and I have been doing morning pages ever since. Yeah. So I am a morning pages devotee, but I journal throughout the day as well, because when you and Chris Fox were talking about flow,
Yeah.
that's so important to me as a writer. And the way that I get into flow personally is through writing. So in the morning, what I do is sort of write out whatever is kind of going on in my head, and I have a very chaotic head at times. But sometimes when I'm in my day, something will pop into my head, and I'll write it down, or I'll write down ideas, or I'll write down something I saw on a walk, because quite often inspiration is fleeting.
Yeah.
It taps me on the shoulder, but it's gone.
Right.
And especially at 58, it disappears even faster. So I love to write it down, not only to get it in concrete, but also to kind of explore it. So I love it when I have a bit of time after I've had some kind of inspiration or get a thought, because then I'll journal about it, get into that flow, and it's so cool, stuff that just comes that feels like, whoa, it's just downloading. I love that.
Right. Yeah. And it's very helpful, and I don't know that you do you do do you write fiction or anything like that?
Well, as I said, the first half of my book is fiction,
allegorical, yeah.
And then the second, allegorical. So it's very much Kevin, I'm a workshop facilitator here in New Zealand, and I run workshops with women. So the three main characters, the three main women characters in the story, the first half of the book, are really composites of women that I've worked with in workshops. And there's a bit of me in all three characters. But again, harking back to your interview with Chris Fox, when you two were talking about flow and about sort of being in that place where where it just comes fast and furious.
Right.
My favorite part of writing the tale was when I was just sitting at my computer and my eyes were sort of looking out of the window and I was taking dictation. It was just downloading and coming so fast. I felt like I can't write fast enough to get this dialogue that these women are talking about. And in my mind's eye, I saw them sitting around a table, drinking coffee, having these conversations. Sometimes I'd laugh out loud because one of the characters is kind of snarky, and she would say something, and I'd want to write it really fast because I wouldn't want to miss it. And I would be writing so fast and furious, I'd have to go back later. It'd sort of feel like, phew, and go back and put punctuation in and put it in the proper format, because I was just writing. And I love it when that happens. It doesn't happen often, but I love it when it does.
No, yeah, I love that too. That is that state of flow that that Chris was talking about and that we were talking about, and it's very helpful and it's therapeutic actually, or at least I found it therapeutic.
Oh,
And I'm sure you do too, since you wrote an entire book on the topic.
Absolutely. And we talk about that a lot in our workshops, and I talk about it in my book, Kevin, that what it seems, not just women, this isn't gender specific at all, that especially now in our modern life, where we're so hooked into everything and where we're so busy, and we feel like even in our downtime we need to be hooked in to be doing something, and either watching a movie or emailing somebody or catching up on past emails that we haven't done or cleaning the house or something. So we are constantly so busy. And when I talk to people in the workshops about the necessity to just slow down, to allow that flow or to allow that hooking back into self, most people I talk to are terrified to do that. Right. They say they either don't know how or they don't want to know. It's like, I don't want to go there. There are demons there, and I don't want to touch that. And so people stay busy, or they get distracted. They have one more glass of wine, one more joint, go for another run, stay busy, buy something, eat. There's so much addiction to distraction that it's quite tough to get back in touch with self.
Yeah, I will admit to being one of those people that I'm constantly distracting myself. And, I have my moments of focus when I'm doing the work, but once the work's done, it's like I'm addicted to, everything. I mean, checking Facebook feeds or, hopping on Twitter or checking email, like that stuff is constantly in my life. So I'd be very interested to learn how to break that habit, actually.
Yeah. Well, it's very easy. I talk about it, and well, that's not true. It's very simple. It's not easy. It's tough. Um, but I talk about it in the book is quite literally, put away the computer, don't open another bottle of wine, don't open the bar of chocolate, and sit still and breathe. You don't have to cross your legs in lotus, and you don't have to say Om, but just look at, like right now, I'm sitting upstairs in my room in my very, very favorite place. I look out over the sea. I'm quite fortunate. I have quite a lovely home. And I'm sitting looking out this huge picture window upstairs, looking out to the sea. And this is my go-to place when I need to sort of unhook and come back to my essence of self. And I just sit here and sit. That's it. Sit and breathe. And at first, to be quite honest, Kevin, at first what happens is I get all of the negative chatter saying, you're being lazy. What are you doing? You should be doing this. You've got so many emails that you should be answering. Look at that floor. Look at that floor. You need to vacuum that floor. And what about those dishes that are sitting in there? You really need to do that. And you have 2 phone calls that you owe. You haven't called them back. And it's like insane in there. But even if I run really fast and I do all the things that my brain tells me I need to be doing, it's still not enough. Yeah. It's a horrible taskmaster. And ironically, the irony here is the only way to quiet that is for me to sit very still and breathe and connect back into that self. And that's where I can relax again and touch the essence of self and actually connect into my inspiration. Or if I don't want to sit, if I'm a little more squirrely than that, I go for a walk and just, again, don't bring my iPod, don't plug myself in, just walk and hear the birds and breathe. Because that's that essence of self that we've really lost touch with.
Yeah, I know that I have, because sitting, just the idea, I'm sitting here thinking about, like, where would I sit to do this, and what would happen if I did? I think I would completely unspool if I sat down and tried to do that. So my question then is, do you have to actively separate that space from where you would normally do your work, or can it be the same space, or does it matter?
I think it's different for every single person, obviously. But for me, this is my go-to place. This is my office as well, quote unquote office. I sit in a chair with I have a big window seat, and that's where I sit and look out the window. And when I'm writing, I put my computer on the window seat. You're sitting there now, as a matter of fact. Okay. And I have a chair facing the window rather than along the window. So this is my favorite spot. And what I do is I just move the computer and just look out. I think more than the actual place for me, everybody's different. More than the actual place is for me the mindset. It's sort of me saying, wow, I really need to stop this chatter. It's making me nuts. Of course, it's always lovely if I can get with a group of women in a similar mindset, and we can have a whole group where we sort of sit and get quiet for a bit, because that sort of group intention and that energy that's created, that helps move me to that place quicker. But I can do it alone, and I've practiced it a lot, because otherwise I would be absolutely insane, because my head is so chaotic.
Yes, I've been there. I actually do understand that. So, so you're just sit and breathe. Okay, so I hear that. Very difficult for me to calm myself though in those times. Like, it's very difficult for me to just shut all that off. So, is it just a practice thing?
Right. Well, actually, no, not. That's just one piece, and that's for me. One of the main things I talk about in my book, actually, Kevin, is that there's lots of modalities to get there, lots of them. I use journaling, and that's not just sitting and breathing. That's writing, and sometimes what I need to do is write the chaos out. Like, I will just, sometimes just scribble lines to viscerally, very viscerally get rid of the and then flow will start. My dear friend and business partner, Deb, paints. And
Okay.
sometimes she will paint aggravation out, and sometimes she will just be using color that creates absolute bliss, and she'll say, I don't even know how I got here. It's just part of that flow. I have another friend, Lindley, who dances, and she will put on music and dance and get lost in that. I have several friends that garden, that go outside, just get in the dirt, don't even necessarily plant, just sort of sit and pull weeds and get in the dirt. I have other friends that sew. And basically what I talk about in my book and what I recommend in workshops is get lost in your own creativity, whatever that is. I mean, I for me like to be able to sit still and go into a meditative place to get back in touch with that deepest sense of self. But if that feels scary, and for a lot of people it does, that's okay.
Yeah.
What ignites your passion? What feels like, oh, I could do that? I know, my friend could turn on music and dance for hours. Another friend, Deb, could go into her studio and get lost. She can get lost in clay. She can get lost in sewing. She can get lost in canvases. And that's where she'll say, wow, sorry, hours will pass. That's that connection to self. And that's what I mean by not distracting.
Yeah.
Distraction is that, let me check Facebook one more time to see if anyone liked my oh so clever post, or let me check the insane nanoseconds of Twitter, or let me have one more glass of wine because by God I deserve it, which for me, the reason I don't do that anymore usually became the whole bottle. And other people that will just have one square of chocolate and suddenly the chocolate's gone, because we look for ways to not touch that truest sense of self out of fear. And yet getting into that place of flow through creativity or through something that you're passionate about is actually bliss.
Yeah.
Instead of numbing out, tune in is what I say in the book. Don't numb out, tune in, and you're going to be your best company when you finally get there.
So why do you think people are afraid of this? Like, why would they be afraid to get in touch with their creative self or deeper self?
Well, I think, in my opinion, this is just my personal opinion and what I've seen in workshops, because we do a lot of creativity in workshops. As I said, my business partner, Deb, is an artist. She sells her artwork around New Zealand. Most people look at anything that's considered creative and say, I'm not an artist. Okay. Well, no one's asking you to sell your artwork. No one's in our workshops, we don't teach you about perspective and about, colors that complement each other. What we're saying is take the internal and externalize it. That's all. No one else has to see your journal. No one else has to see your writing. Nobody else has to see your artwork on paper or your artwork on a canvas. I would never recommend to someone that's saying, I'm not creative, to start with a canvas. A white canvas is absolutely terrifying. Yeah. So, I say start with, some scrap paper, doodle. Something that I've been recommending recently that seems to have quite a quick effect to get into flow are those adult coloring books.
Oh yeah,
they're very structured. They're not too scary, and people, once they start playing with the color, it's quite visceral. There's the action of using the colored pencils. There's the visual beauty of putting the colors together. There's the movement of the actual coloring activity. So it's very sensual, and to me, that's that getting in touch with that essence of self. Yeah. is mixing the senses. That's why gardening works for a lot of people. Not only is there the beauty, but there's the smell of the earth. Mm-hmm. There's the feel of the sun. There's that texture of the dirt. With dance, there's hearing the music, viscerally moving to how it moves you. With writing, for me, there's that write out that chaos or whatever. And sometimes, as I say, I literally rip through paper when I'm trying to get whatever's going on inside out. It's what I talk about in the book. It's externalize that internal process, because most of us, and certainly I speak for myself, we have that, that hamster wheel in our head that goes around and around and around.
Yeah.
And it's tough to get off unless I like very consciously say, right, done with that. Let's do something else.
Yeah. So what about those of us who creativity is part of our work, and it doesn't always feel relaxing? What do you recommend?
Absolutely. Totally, Kevin. And I really get that, because writing is my go-to place for getting in touch with self. But when I felt like, shit, I've got 100 pages I've got to have due by the end of the day. Yeah. And that writing became the taskmaster, the big Patti standing over me with the whip that said, you got to write. And therefore, it became the horrible have to do thing. So for me, and everybody's different, again, for me, what I would do is when I couldn't touch writing because it was due, I would usually go for a walk and clear it. And literally, I look like a crazy woman. I'd be walking down the street, shaking my hands and shaking my head and trying to just move the energy. I would usually, for me, have to journal first, because my journal is very separate, and I have more than one journal usually going at one time. And I would just, like, as I say, write scratches, like, get out of the way. And then, maybe write, frustrated, can't get there. Whatever was in there, I'd want to externalize. And then I'd sit down at the computer and wait. And then, swear and stomp my feet and walk in a circle and do whatever I had to do and come back to the computer. And sometimes I would just start writing. It's similar to what you and Chris actually were speaking about. Sometimes just writing, if I was really, really desperate, and eventually it would click. And then I could keep going, and I'd have to delete pages at a time usually, because the just right part was often rubbish and didn't really fit where I needed it to be. But it eventually would click in. Usually I'm my own worst enemy in my head, and if I can't clear it with a walk or with journaling or stomping my feet and having a tantrum, then I usually have to just sit down and write.
just kind of force yourself into the mood, I guess, a little, right?
Right, exactly.
So you're what does a normal day look like for you then? I mean, how's your day starting? I know it doesn't normally start with a podcast, right?
Wow, I don't, at this point in time, I've got to tell you, Kevin, normal is not very normal for me. My kids are both down in Dunedin on the South Island at the University of Otago. I'm very proud of both of them, love them dearly. But they're out of the house. They're at university. My husband is in Africa. He is doing teacher training in Malawi. So I am alone in my house. So kind of rattling around a little bit. It's almost like, honestly, Kevin, it almost is like the universe is laughing at me saying, okay, you presented this book. All right, there you go, live it.
Right. That does seem to be that seems to be the way that happens, though. Whenever you sort of preach a message, then the universe likes to put you to the test and make sure that you're living to that message.
Absolutely. It's sort of like, oh man, wicked sense of humor. So every day I do have some routines. I get up, I wake up, and usually my internal alarm clock wakes me up at 6 a.m. Come hell or high water, that's what happens. And I do morning pages. I'm pretty religious about that. And then I get up and I have lemon and water, because that's a good way of cleaning my system. Mm-hmm. And then after I have lemon and water, I will have my first cup of tea. I like Earl Grey, and I have Earl Grey tea. Since I've moved to New Zealand, I've become a tea drinker. Although when I'm in the States, I do revert back to coffee. I'm going to
interrupt you real quick, because I happen to be sitting here, and normally I'm a coffee drinker through and through, but I happen to be sitting here with a nice cup of Earl Grey tea. I just started drinking it again yesterday.
Right. So, a convert.
Yeah.
I spend, as you can hear, I have an American accent. I was born and raised in San Francisco, and I go back to the States quite often. My sister's in Madison, Wisconsin, and I go back there every couple of years and do some work at UW-Madison. And I'm going back to the States in June for a book tour. My publisher, She Writes Press, that's a fabulous publishing company. Gosh, any women looking that has something that will speak to women, they are just an awesome press. So She Writes has a book tour planned for some of the authors, and then I have a publicist in the States as well, and I'm going to be doing a book tour June, July, and August. And looking back to that Earl Grey, when I'm in the States, I definitely drink a lot of coffee. It's really interesting, actually, Kevin. People move a lot faster in the U.S. than they do in New Zealand. It's almost cliche. It's almost comical, but it's quite accurate. I drive faster, I talk faster, I move faster, and I drink a lot more coffee.
So that's something, by the way, that I am curious about, like worldwide. I mean, we've done some world travel, and the pace does change. I would just love to know why. And Americans also seem to work more than just about any other nation I've encountered. Like less time off, fewer vacations, shorter vacations. It just seems kind of epidemic, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And when you look at most other countries and the amount of time they are paid to have off, and, New Zealand is quite lovely in that way. There's maternity leave, there's good vacation time. I mean, that is if you have a proper job, which I don't have. You're talking about my normal life. I do run workshops, and I run workshops a couple of times a week, but it's my days are very fluid, and so I really do require some self-discipline. Otherwise, time just sort of disappears. So if I don't have a workshop, I really do have to focus and make sure I get things done. Right now, I had no idea you would be quite aware of this, being a writer, but I thought once I finished my book, I worked with my editor, we had a beautiful final copy, it was all done, it was put into a nice package. I thought, great, this is gorgeous, I'm done. Oh, no. The amount of work that is required to market and get your book out there and be on social media and, create a buzz and talk about it and all of these pieces, and, writing articles and, it's really, it's a lot of work. And so what I have right now is I have a list that's several pages long, and the hard part is nothing is due right now. I mean, this is great. I have an interview, and it was 7 a.m. Friday morning. That was great. I've got a time frame for that. But the pages of my list, nothing's due right now. It's all due ASAP, which is choking. It feels like, oh my God, I've got so much to do, but I don't really have to right now.
Right.
I could binge watch something on Netflix instead.
Right, and that's the challenge of the creative workforce, I guess. Especially with authors, you've got the book. That part actually turns out to be almost the easy part. I mean, the labor of it, it seems difficult while you're doing it, but once it's done, getting people to actually pay attention to it—that's a full-time job with no pay.
It is. Absolutely. It's exciting and absolutely abject terror. Because it's sort of like, gosh, I hope you like it. I hope you like it. And I hope you tell your friends to buy it, because otherwise I'm going to get really hungry.
Right. So, okay. Your primary income is the workshops and that work that you do?
Yes, absolutely. Although the workshops that I run here, my business partner, Deb, and we started a charitable trust here, and we have a board of trustees, and it is a charitable trust, grant funded, so that we can offer workshops to people who can't afford to pay for workshops. So we work with teen moms, we work in prisons, we work at community centers, and then also, so that's one piece, and that's a labor of love. And then my book is hopefully going to be generating, a whole new buzz. And then what I'm doing now, Kevin, is I am starting a new project, which is online digital workshops.
Okay.
And I haven't done this before, and I haven't seen a lot of other people doing it. The reason I did it, and the reason that a lot of things happen, again, it's that sort of tap of inspiration on your shoulder, is that I had so many people from different places, the South Island in New Zealand, Australia, and lots of people in the U.S. saying, but I want to do a workshop. I want to do this stuff in the workbook with you. And this visualization sounds great, but I want you to lead it. So I started thinking, okay, and I went down to the beach and I was swimming, and suddenly I got this flash of inspiration of, on the internet, you can have everybody in one room.
That's true.
So I created a format for an online workshop that's related to my book, The 12 Weeks, and I'm launching that after the book tour, so in like September. And so that feels really exciting because I'll be able to, be in touch with a lot of people and do this work that I just adore.
Right.
So it feels very exciting. So if anybody wants more information about it, the information is on my website, thiswayupbook.com, and one of the tabs is online workshops, and that will explain the format, etc. But that feels really exciting, and that feels like a new venture that will be quite effervescent and exciting.
Yes. We like things to be effervescent.
Yes, we do.
So, okay, the workshops now, that's good. And that extends your reach, so that's always a positive. A lot of people can't figure out a way to sort of, implement that in their careers. So I'm working on something like that, actually. My partner Nick Thacker and I, we've got some ideas. We put one together a couple of years ago that sort of flopped, and I think he's a little gun shy about it now, but we're gonna give it another shot now that we have bigger, better audiences. So we'll see how it works out. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it was honestly, Kevin. Honestly, it was. I got this hit when I was swimming, and it felt like I was getting this jolt of electricity. It almost felt like a seizure. It was quite eerie. And I came back and I journaled like crazy about it. I practically ran up the hill to my house, just like writing so quickly. And then I sat down after that excitement and thought, how the hell do I do that? I'm 58. I haven't got a clue in the universe. I saw this whole vision come out, and then I thought, I just don't have a clue.
Yeah, but see, that's not the important part, though, right? The important part is you got the inspiration and you decide to act on it. The rest will fall into place, right?
Exactly. And that's exactly right. Basically, I called my sons and I said, okay, so here's what happened. Now, what do I do on the technical side?
Right.
And it was, it's been really an interesting journey. And to be honest, it's this whole thing has been a journey. Really, honestly, at 58, the whole social media scene and technology scene. I've been on Facebook for a long time, and I've had a blog, but I haven't been really immersed in a lot of this, and yet. I have to be because if, as you were talking about, so you wrote a book, okay, that's nice. Now what? If you want to get that reach, if you want to reach people and have a wider audience, you've got to do that because there's 7,000 people in Thames, the town I live in, and all 7,000 know me, and the ones that want to have already done a workshop.
Right. That is the downside to living in a small town when you're an entrepreneur. If it is dependent on anyone else, yeah. So I want to jump back for a second because I have a big interest in journaling, and I promote that to a lot of people. But I was curious and wanted to ask you this earlier. But how do you journal? Do you journal on notebook paper or in a Moleskine notebook or something, or do you use an application?
But because I journal so much, I can't afford to get really fancy schmancy journals. I've had some in the past and then fill them up and feel grief and mourn for them. Occasionally for presents, people will give me a nice journal and I'll, it's sort of like I want to wrap it in plastic 'cause it's so pretty and
Right.
I don't want to use it up, which is crazy,
Right.
crazy.
No, I know.
But no,
I'm there.
quite seriously. What I do is I buy them in bulk at Warehouse Stationery. I buy the ones that have sort of the black plastic cover and have blank pages inside and ring binder kind of thing. No lines. I make sure that there's no lines because at first I was very rigid about my lines, and then Deb, my business partner, said no lines when we did workshops, and I found that yes, I don't want lines because then I can draw when that comes up. I can scratch.
Yeah.
I can write really big, whatever. And lines are very confining. So I've found since moving away from lines, for me personally, I can be a lot more expressive. And as I say, I buy these journals in bulk. I have the big ones where I have that next to my computer at all times and I take notes or I jot down inspiration or I'll write down a website or whatever. And then I have the smaller one next to my bed that I write in every day for morning pages. And then I have another one that's smaller downstairs in case I need to jot down something else.
Okay. All right. I am an advocate of all those things. I'm a big fan of like the Moleskine notebooks. I have hundreds of them from over the years that I've not just Moleskines. I mean like old. I have one that's one of my first journals that was written in Mead's Fat Little Notebook,
Right?
which is an old favorite. But I think I do all my journaling now in an app, so called Day One. So I'm curious because every time I meet someone who's into journaling, I try to find out as much as I can about their process, and I do like
my son Lucas, who is also a journaler. He does it on that app as well, and he's quite avid about it. And he said, I should really try this, but it didn't work for me. I'm old school, and I
It's
very
too
much
structured
like
for you.
that. It really is, and I like the visceral process of, if you could see me, you don't have the video on, my arms are waving around, but I really like that visceral process of being able to write.
Yeah.
And when I go to the computer, I feel like, okay, now I'm in email or work mode, which is kind of a different space.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
and I love Moleskine. I absolutely love it. But in New Zealand, they're incredibly expensive, and I would just eat it up. And they're something like $40 a piece.
Oh
so,
yeah, that's too much.
yeah.
I mean, they're not exactly cheap here, but I mean, they're not $40. I mean, I can get one
Right.
for like maybe $15 or so.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
wow. Okay. Yeah. I could probably live with it switching if it were going to be $40 a notebook.
Yeah.
I have this.
But you know what? In my book, I recommend to the reader, go out, shop around, find a journal that you love the feel of, smell it, touch it, really love that texture and how it feels. Because especially for people that aren't, journaling all the time, if it's a new process, I really advocate for someone to love that, to feel like, ooh, I love touching it. I love the smell of it. So I really, in the book, I really recommend that it's a gift to yourself.
Yeah.
Not only is the time a gift to yourself, but get a pen you like, get a journal you like, sit down, and even if you don't necessarily love your words or your pictures that you're putting in there, enjoy the process, because this is all about gifting back to self.
Right.
And one of the main messages in my book is you're worth it. You're absolutely worth it. And find yourself again. It's just so easy to lose touch with what we get excited about. So I feel like this is a very gentle step to get that journal and say, this is mine.
I'm a big fan of that. So, okay, part of the title of your book is transforming your life, and that's something that I'm constantly in pursuit of that. Of course, I think most Honestly, I think most people who are entrepreneurs, especially, but anyone who is interested in sort of bettering themselves and breaking out of the box of their career and getting onto something else is probably going to feel this way. Probably spends a lot of time thinking about it. But what's like a prominent success story you can think of about transforming someone's life?
Yeah. The just if I could backtrack a bit with that, and then I'll
Sure,
go
sure.
into the story. The transforming your life. I mean, it does sound rather grandiose, and it was my publisher that came up with that, with the subtitle, and I was a bit reluctant, and yet it was sort of like, okay, this will touch some people that want to hear it. But
Right.
usually, the reason we went with this, and the reason it touches me quite deeply, is so many women are at a point, especially middle aged, around 45 to 60, where they're lost. They feel purposeless. They
Hmm.
feel directionless and bereft, Kevin, absolutely bereft. Like, what the hell? Who am I? What do I do? So that transformation felt quite important, that term. So one of the things that's I'm seeing a lot, and I've actually done a YouTube video on my channel about this. It's a new thing that's happening, and it's what I'm calling it is triple empty nest.
Yeah.
And we all know empty nest, which is when the kids leave home, and then we, as baby booming sandwich generation, we were often the ones that had teenagers and elderly parents. And then suddenly it was the elderly parents are dying or sometimes have dementia, which is like they're leaving, and the kids are leaving home. So there's this double empty nest. And now what I'm hearing about so much is what is called, I don't know if you've read about it, but it's called the gray divorce revolution.
Okay.
And divorce as just a thing is actually on the decline in most developed worlds. So across Europe, US, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, divorce as a general is declining. However, the divorce rate between 45 to 65 in there is spiking astronomically.
Yeah.
And it's suddenly women are getting hit, boom, 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 this triple empty nest where they're reeling. Their kids are leaving home, parents are dying, and then partners are often saying, right, we raised the kids. And it's not always men. It's really not. But generally, it seems to be more men, but women too. I won't be gender specific on this. There's this feeling of, okay, we've done the job, now I want more,
Right.
and leaving. And so what I'm seeing is the result with the women. That's the part I'm seeing, and these women are bereft, are lost, are saying, oh my God, I dedicated my life to raising the kids. When my elderly parents did become elderly, I took care of them. I was dutiful. I was the dutiful daughter, and then was the good wife and took care of my husband, and was put him first in a lot of cases, especially with middle-aged women.
Right.
And suddenly, holy shit, there you are, alone,
Right.
and not having a clue. And so with the now harking back to your question about transformation, I really didn't forget. There's a lot of women that I'm speaking to, and certainly that I address in the book, is that feeling of empty shell. There's this emptiness, this bereft, this purposelessness, and feeling of, oh my God, what do I do? And so the transformation, to me, when I think of transformation, and I'm sure I'm not alone here, I'm not saying anything unique, but is that chrysalis to butterfly. And
Right.
so many women with that imagery of the chrysalis feeling like it's just an empty shell. There's nothing in there. It's just this thing hanging on a leaf by a thread. And oh my God, this thread is tenuous. And am I going to survive? And through this process of getting back into self and through experiencing creativity, whatever that looks like, and through doing these exercises and creating space for yourself and practicing gratitude and moving forward, there is this transformation that comes, and it's like, wow, I really like myself. Yeah. I have chills. And so that is that's the story that you asked for, going all the way back. The story that you asked for is just hearing that from so many women of the process has been hard. The process was not easy, but by God, it's worth it. I really like myself.
That's something I'm working on. I need to like myself more.
I think we all do. I think we all. And there's in my book, I don't remember which week it is in the workbook, but there's a whole chapter on journaling exercises and visualizations about loving and about loving ourselves first, because I think it's pretty universally agreed that we've got to love ourselves first. Yeah. Because if we just keep pouring out love without refilling, we get empty.
Yeah. That's true. All right. Well, we're coming up against the line here, Patti, and I kind of regret that because I'm enjoying our conversation. I think what you've got here, it really resonates with me. So I'm hoping it resonates with my listeners as well, and it jives with the kind of thing that I try to get across to people about. Using creativity, for example, as a method of self-discovery. So I really appreciate your work.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
No problem
I really
at all.
appreciate it.
People can find you, and you've got a couple of websites here, but I think they essentially lead to the same place, right? PattiClark.org and thiswayupbook.com. Correct?
Correct. Thiswayupbook.com is specifically about the book and about the workshops, and then PattiClark.org is my blog site. So I've had that blog site for 40 years now, and you can look back, and all of my blog posts are touching on these topics. Talk about gratitude, talk about forgiveness, talk about creativity, moving forward, negative inner chatter. All the stuff I talk about in my book there are blog posts about it. So I hope people will go and explore. And now I have a YouTube channel too. So I can be found on YouTube, and that is quite specifically what I'm doing is all of the meditations and visualizations that I have in the workbook. I am getting up on YouTube so that people can access them when they're reading the book, or they can just go to and use if they find them helpful.
That's excellent. All right. Well, everyone can check that out. You'll find links, by the way, to that stuff in the show notes, listeners. So never fear. Patti, thank you so much for being a part of the show. I really do appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Kevin. It has just been so much fun. This has been a really, really enjoyable interview. I feel like I've been talking with a friend over Earl Grey tea.
That's what I try to do. And us Earl Grey lovers have to stick together. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to come visit you in New Zealand, by the way. That's on our bucket list. Kara and I just got an RV and we're traveling the U.S., but I don't think they've got a nice road for us to drive to New Zealand just yet. So
no, there's not a bridge that long yet. But I tell you what, Kevin, we have each other's emails. Please stay in touch. You are more than welcome to use my home as a base on the Cornwall Peninsula. It's quite beautiful.
I'm going to hold you to it. So
I hope you do.
All right, everybody. Stick around for a little bit of wrap up and housekeeping after this. And thank you so much for tuning in. Patti, thank you so much for being on. And everyone else, we'll see you in a few minutes.
Thanks, Kevin.
So yeah, I told you that was going to be a good interview. You never listen to me anymore. So thanks for sticking around. And thank you so much for all your support and all your help. I know last week I went a little maudlin, and I apologize to anybody who was maybe offended by that or confused by that. I actually realized afterward that I don't think I ever actually stated what it was I was referring to. And of course I was referring to the recent shooting in Orlando, which just broke my heart. And no matter where you stand on gun control, and I mean, I'm conservative, and I believe that we should be armed. I don't really want anyone coming along and changing the Second Amendment, and that's just my stance. But no matter where you stand on it, there's no denying that this was a horrible tragedy. So I'm not going to rehash that. I just wanted to state what I was talking about, just in case anybody got confused, because I do that sometimes. I get off track. So thank you so much for tuning in again for yet another week of Wordslinger Madness. Recently, let's see, a few days ago, my time, I attended the Comic Palooza comic book and pop culture event here in Houston, Texas. I was a speaker on a panel there, and I got to kind of wander around the floor a little. Unfortunately, we're kind of in the middle of all of our downsizing and preparing to move into the RV. So that's been one of the challenges we've been dealing with, and so it sucks up a little of our time, especially weekends. So I didn't get to hang out and do as much as I wanted to, but I did have a fantastic panel. So for those of you who showed up for that, I appreciate you being there and supporting me in that. Hope you got something cool out of it. It was a little bit like, these things are always a little bit like being on the podcast, but suddenly I have a whole bunch of strangers as my co-hosts. So, but it is kind of fun. So I enjoyed that. But one of my takeaways from that, well, one thing that's happening because of that is suddenly I've been on these before, but I don't know why things have shifted, but suddenly I'm getting a whole bunch of traffic from that. And if you are a listener coming in from Comic Palooza, thank you for your support. And please let me know, because I it's fascinating to me. I do a lot of these events. I speak, I move around the country, and I have a good time with it, but I don't always know that there's a direct impact. So if you are discovering me through an event or through an interview or a blog post or something, please let me know. Go to kevintumlinson.com and hit the contact button and send me an email. That said, what's the rest of the housekeeping I got to deal with here? I just finished up the first draft of The Lucid Book 3, Part 3, I guess, which I'm co-authoring with Nick Thacker. So that's being edited right now. So you can all be excited about that, please. But beyond that, I am starting a brand new Dan Kotler book, and I'm titling it. I've already got a title. I already know what it's about. The title will be revealed later. So what a tease. That's a big tease. But I promise it's going to be cool. You'll dig it. So I'll let you know more details about that as it gets closer. I've already got kind of a mock-up of the cover. I know. I haven't even written the book yet, and I've already got a mock-up of the cover. But this is one of those ideas that came almost full form to me. And Nick has kind of been ribbing me about him trying to get me to write this book for a while. So now that I have the Dan Kotler universe established through Coelho Medallion, I can get into this. So if you have read that book, by the way, please let me know. And the best way to let me know is to do so in a review on Amazon. But you can also feel free to email me. If you'll go to kevintumlinson.com and hit contact, you can email me to let me know what you thought of Coelho Medallion. That book is setting the tone for a lot of what I'm writing going forward. So I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have suggestions or whatever, just let me know. I'm building my street team right now, and I may have hit my quota already. I sent out an email today. If you have been paying attention, by the way, Apple has reached its settlement with, I guess, Amazon users. I don't know all the specifics of this, but they had a class action suit or something going on, and basically a whole bunch of us got credit on Amazon. I was one of them. I got a pretty nice credit, like $47 credit, to be used before June 17th or June 24th, 2017. So there's I don't know why there's a time limit on a credit, but that's sitting there waiting for me to use, and it'll probably get used today. You might want to check. If you go on, you check your inbox, you probably got an email. But if just in case, go to Amazon and look on practically any product page, and if there's a picture of a pink pig, I'm not making this up. If there's a picture of a pink pig, there's a very real possibility you got a credit on Amazon via Apple. And if you'd like to use that credit and you just don't know what to put it toward, may I suggest some of my books? I mean, they're right there. So check it out. Anyway, thanks so much. And by the way, thanks to Dan Wood for that suggestion. He actually came up with that idea, and I sent it out to my mailing list today and got a big feedback on that. So that and joining my street team, being a beta reader so you can get my books before they release. I've got a limited number of spots I'm offering for that. So if you are interested in that, go to kevintumlinson.com and go to contact. And there's actually a radio button right there that you can click on that says, I want to be on your street team. I do have some requirements. One, I want to see reviews from people. If you've actually reviewed a book before, it doesn't have to be mine, it can be anybody's. I do want to see that, and I want to know that you're articulate and that you are dedicated to the principles here, because I'm looking for people to help me with proofreading and editing and that sort of thing. But I also want people who are willing to review the books once they go live. So I have a few requirements, but I've got a pretty good team building up so far. So I should have been doing this all along. So, all right, take care of yourselves. We'll close this out. Don't forget to rate and rank this show on iTunes. It's very important, and it's very helpful. And I'm very grateful to everyone who does that. So thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful and blessed weekend ahead. God bless all of you. Talk to you soon.
Word Slinger.